Nature is calling yet again. Hey there, it's Theo from Geeky Gamer Guy. This video will be previewing Cascadia Rolling Rivers from Flatout Games. Note: just like pretty much all these previews, this video shows prototype components and is subject to changes. And with that, we better get rolling. Cascadia Rolling Rivers is a competitive flip and roll and write game for 1 to 4 players. Players will be gathering wildlife from dice to complete habitat cards and then write that habitat into their environment sheet. To set up, give each player a pair of personal dice, being sure everyone gets one die that shows a bear and the other shows a split salmon hawk on them. It's super important. Next, give each player a player reference card and a tally sheet for keeping track of how much wildlife they have collected. Now decide collectively which environment A to D everyone will be playing this game. Each map has a star rating from 1 to 3 stars, with 1 being the easiest to 3 being the most difficult. Ooh, I already feel my brain melting. For this overview, I'll be using the introductory map A, the Columbia River, but I'll touch more on the others a bit later. Give each player the matching environment sheet. Place the central dice within reach of all players. Separate the habitat cards by their backs and tier. Each of the 5 habitats are tied to a specific type: mountains, forests, prairies, wetlands, and rivers, and also comes in either an easier to complete tier 1 or a more challenging tier 2. Shuffle each deck and remove 1 card from each tier deck. Put the ones removed back in the box. Next, shuffle all the tier 1 decks together, doing the same with tier 2. Then place a tier 1 stack on top of tier 2, forming the habitat deck. Reveal 4 habitat cards in a row face up next to the deck. Lastly, shuffle and reveal 4 completion cards to assign to each slot above or below the habitat cards. Completion cards come in 2 types: either blue discount cards that are placed above the habitat card, or brown completion cards that are placed below them. For the first game, I'll be using the 4 cards marked 1 to 4 to assign to each slot. These are a bit simpler for the first few games. And with that, we're ready to start exploring. A game of Cascadia Rolling Rivers is played over exactly 20 rounds. Each round plays as follows: roll dice, collect wildlife, and complete a habitat. Roll dice. A player rolls the central dice. It doesn't really matter who rolls them, as the game is played simultaneously among all players. As well as each player rolls 2 personal dice. Collect wildlife. Then based on the rolled dice, players collect wildlife from their personal and central dice. Usually you can only collect 1 type of wildlife from the combined dice. Mark off the current wildlife type total and add the new amount to it. So you'd mark off the starting 1 hawk and add 3 hawks to give a new total of 4 hawks. Come on, math! But before taking a wildlife, there are a couple things to consider. First, check the special central die. This die is unique to Rolling Rivers, and its different faces can impact the wildlife taken this round, like a wild animal symbol, giving 1 extra animal of your choice, or allowing you to take 1 different die other than the group of dice chosen. Also, before picking your wildlife dice, players can spend nature tokens found at the bottom of their tally sheet to manipulate the rolled dice by performing 1 dice action. When spending nature tokens or wildlife, it works in the same way as adding them, except you subtract the amount needed from your current total. Also, all manipulations don't physically change the rolled dice. They just give players a way to potentially gain the wildlife they need. For 1 nature token, they can down-convert 1 type of wildlife from the dice to the next type shown directly below it on their tally sheet. So for example, these 2 foxes can be down-converted to 2 hawks because hawks are directly below foxes on the tally sheet. For 2 nature tokens, 1 type of wildlife can be up-converted to the next wildlife directly above it. Like here, 3 elk can be up-converted to 3 bears. Hello, bears! Lastly, for 3 nature tokens, you can instead take 2 types of wildlife from dice. Like in this roll, for 3 nature tokens, you can take 4 salmon and 2 elk. Next, record the collected animals on the tally sheet. Adding the animals as I said earlier. Complete a habitat. After that, players can optionally complete a habitat card. Each of the 4 slots contains a habitat card. These cards show a certain number of wildlife on them. If you want to complete a habitat card, do the following. Apply discounts from the completion card above it, if any. These blue completion cards give you ways to discount the requirements needed to complete the habitat card under it. Like if this card is above it, reduce the amount of wildlife needed to complete it for every nature token spent. Next, pay the cost for the chosen habitat card by spending the wildlife shown on it. So this forest habitat card needs 1 bear, 1 elk, 2 foxes, and 3 salmon to complete it. Subtract those animals from your tally sheet. After that, take the habitat and completion card bonuses. In the habitat card from before, it provides one nature token. If there are any brown completion cards below the completed habitat card, gain the bonuses as well. Like if this completion card was below it, the player would roll one of their personal dice and gain the animals on it. Next, mark the environment sheet with the corresponding habitat, type, and number on the card. For example, in the Columbia River environment, write the number from the habitat card you just completed in the top open hexagon in the column of the corresponding habitat type. So using the habitat card from before, you would fill in a 3 in the forest habitat column. Then check to see if any bonuses were gained on the environment sheet. In this case, filling in the second and fourth hexagon of any habitat columns would give a bonus. Circle any points gained and cross off the bonus given. Then collect any of the bonuses at the bottom of the sheet in the bonus area, crossing off wildlife and nature tokens gained and adding them to the tally sheet. If a single row is filled, collect the indicated bonuses to the right of the row by circling the points bonus and crossing off the wild animal bonus. This is just like the one on the central die, adding one animal of your choice to the tally sheet. Once all players have completed filling in their sheets, slide the habitat cards to the right one space. The card furthest from the habitat deck is discarded, and a new habitat card is flipped over from the draw pile. Play another round. The game ends when there are no more habitat cards in the draw pile at the end of the round. Proceed to endgame scoring. In the case of the Columbia River environment sheet, add up the number of points scored in each row, including both the numbers you wrote in each hexagon as well as any circled point bonuses earned. Write the subtotals in the corresponding spaces on the right-hand side of the sheet. Then add up your total leftover animals and nature tokens on your tally sheet. Then divide that total by 5 and score that number of points rounded down. Add up all the points to get your final score. The player with the most points wins. In case of a tie, the player with the most leftover nature tokens wins. If there's still a tie, the tied players share in the victory. Some features here include a puzzly roll and write game that has a lot of similarities to its big brother Cascadia. Habitat? Check. Wildlife? Check. Thinky decisions every turn? Double check. This game takes what makes Cascadia great and reimagines it in a compact game experience that is firmly its own fun. Speaking of fun, Cascadia Rolling Rivers has a ton of it with 4 different maps. Each offers its own flavor to slightly twist the main mechanics I described earlier. The Columbia River was only the starting point to introduce you to what each map has to offer. Map B has each habitat in 5 different rows, where each habitat card completed allows the player to further outline the matching habitat row for bonuses and big points. Map C builds on what you've already learned and makes the map's focus all about filling habitats in a grid. Also, gaining landmark icons will give extra bonuses the more you can mark off. Lastly, Map D is the culmination of everything from the previous maps and mostly represents things from Cascadia. Instead of outlining hexes, each completed habitat card allows you to fill in animals on the matching habitat using the ones shown on the card, adding a number of animals equal to the numeral on the habitat card you just completed. At the end of the game, each animal scores differently, much like they do in the bigger game. As if that wasn't enough variety already, there's different completion cards to mix up and use each game. With only 4 in play at a time, you'll have different combinations to switch up when and how to complete habitat cards. It would also be a crime to not mention the new breathtaking art by Best Sobel. It makes the game an absolute stunner on the table. What makes things even more exciting, there's even more Cascadia Rolling with the other edition, Cascadia Rolling Hills, as well. That game features 4 other maps and a unique special central die, making the game playable for 1 to 8 players when combining the both editions. There's also family modes, scenarios, and achievements to challenge you. Lastly, the 2 Kickstarter editions of the game will feature a unique mini expansion that introduces completely new gameplay elements like endgame scoring bonuses, one-time player powers, and competitive objectives to ramp up the competition. Basically, she's gonna keep you busy for a while. This game is definitely for players that love Cascadia and roll and rights. It gives the essence of the bigger game but feels like a new fresh twist on it. And all the different maps really change things up. It's like having 4 different games in one. So if this sounds like something you would enjoy, then you should definitely go check the Kickstarter starting February 27th. I put a link in the description below for you to go sign up and be notified and check out further. That's it. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and want to help out the channel, tapping the like button really helps. Also, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to not miss out on future videos. Until next time, stay geeky, keep gaming. Oh my god. Except you roll it. Hello. Duh. Duh, you roll it. Reimagines it. You should definitely go check out the Kickstarter starting February 17th. 27th, 17th, 10, 20. Oh, God. Bye.